If you're trying to get back to lifting and your back flares up every time you try and increase the weight, you're not crazy and you're probably not as broken as you think. In this video, I'm going to explain what's actually happening, how to find your true starting point, and how to bridge back to heavy lifting without restarting the flare-up cycle. I'm Dan, a physiotherapist and strength coach, and I spent 2.5 years dealing with chronic debilitating back pain before eventually rebuilding to a 600-pound deadlift. And the mistake I made early on is the same one most lifters are making right now. Before we talk about loading, we need to rule something out. If you're experiencing progressive neurological weakness, bowel or bladder changes, unexplained weight loss, or night pain that doesn't change with position, that's not a YouTube problem, that's medical. If those aren't present, what you're most likely dealing with is a load and capacity mismatch. The easiest way to understand load and capacity is with an analogy. Imagine you have a cup, and that cup represents your tolerance for physical and psychological stress. Training load fills the cup, poor sleep fills the cup, high stress fills the cup, poor nutrition, dehydration, irritation, it all adds water to the cup. When the cup overflows, that's when you experience a flare-up or pain. You really only have two levers to pull. One, you can pour a little water out of the cup. That means decreasing tissue load, training a little less, sleeping a little bit more, managing aggravating movements temporarily. Or two, you could increase the size of the cup. That means building tissue strength, improving conditioning, creating resilience, improving recovery, healing through progressive exposure. Most lifters only focus on pouring water out. They rest, they deload, they calm symptoms. But if you never increase the size of the cup, the same load will keep overflowing it. And the longer this has been going on, 6 months, a year, 3 years, the smaller the cup often becomes, which means your true entry point is often a lot lower than you think. Most lifters calm the pain, then return to their previous entry point. But their previous entry point is not their current capacity. If you keep returning to the same load that irritated things before, you're going to keep restarting the flare cycle. Step 1 is find your floor. If this has been chronic, your floor might be lower than your ego likes. It might be pelvic tilts, it might be cat camels, it might be just lifting your arm in a bird dog, it might be 30% of your 1 rep max with a controlled tempo. It should feel almost laughably easy because we're not testing strength here, we're rebuilding tolerance. The longer this has been going on, the more important it is to get right. Step 2 is gradually introduce meaningful loads. Once you've found your floor and you can tolerate that consistently, the next step is not jumping back to heavy lifting. It's a gradual reintroduction of load. That doesn't automatically mean a heavy barbell. It does mean slightly more demanding movement patterns still within tolerance. For example, you might move from a bird dog to a full plank with alternating arm and opposite leg lifts. On the dumbbell side, you could use a light dumbbell Romanian deadlift instead of a barbell hinge, a goblet squat with a slow eccentric instead of a back squat, or a rear foot elevated split squat with dumbbells instead of heavy bilateral loading. If you did introduce barbells, this could be a high box squat instead of full depth squatting. It could be a block pull instead of pulling from the floor, or it could be a tempo RDL at 30 to 40% of your max lift instead of heavy conventional deadlifts. In all of these cases, we're increasing demand without dramatically increasing total stress. You're still training, you're just controlling how much the cup fills up. The goal is not to avoid load, it's to dose it in a way that builds tolerance instead of exceeding it. There are 16 different ways that you can progress an exercise, including adding weight, and I broke that down in another video, I'll link it below. Step 3 is make it predictable. As we build back up, we don't chase intensity, we chase consistency, and we only change one variable at a time. Week 1 might be lifting 30% for 2 to 3 sets, no more than a 3 out of 10 pain, and making sure that it settles within 24 to 36 hours. Week 2, we might introduce a small increase in load. Week 3, we might introduce a small increase in repetition. Week 4, we might slightly increase the range of motion of the movement. What we don't do is increase load, range, and volume all at once. That's how you overshoot capacity. To answer the question of how much pain is reasonable and appropriate to train through, I use a traffic light system. Green is anywhere from a 0 to 4 out of 10. It's tolerable, it doesn't worsen significantly with repetition, that's generally safe to continue training. A yellow light is anywhere from a 5 to 6 out of 10. It's relatively tolerable, but now you have to pay attention. With repetition, does it change? If it gets better, green light. If it gets worse, red light. If it stays the same, then we have to consider another question. After the activity, how long does it take to settle down? If you're back to baseline within 24 to 48 hours, that's acceptable. If it takes longer than 48 hours to settle down, that's a red light situation. A red light is anything that's a 7 out of 10 or higher. It's sharp, it's clearly worsening, and it's impeding on your ability to do the thing you're doing. The goal here is not to panic, but rather to return to a green or yellow light situation. That probably means reducing the range of motion, lowering the weight or reps, or changing the movements entirely. So if your back keeps flaring when you try to lift, the question isn't, am I permanently damaged? It's, what is my true starting point? Find your floor, make it predictable, progress one variable at a time. And if you're stuck trying to figure out what that entry point should be, that's exactly what I help injured lifters solve. I'll put a link below if you're interested in booking a consult. You can also reach out to me on Instagram directly at @danfrankel.pt. And if this was helpful, subscribe to my channel for more content on rebuilding from pain to performance.